Yeah. So, welcome to the AM Club podcast. If you haven't noticed, we're in a different location once again. You know, and actually, the location is changing by the second. Actually,
So mind your damn business.
yeah, and you're not gonna figure out where we are. Stop looking at the signs in the background either. Stop being nosy. But we're here with another great podcast today. We're actually on our way somewhere to a particular event, and it's not near us actually. And the thing about that is, certain times is going to be, moments where you're going to have to be out of place. You're not going to be where you want to be, or necessarily, not where you want to be, where you're going to have to go to where you need to be. And that may not be close. That may not be down the street. But you know what you still have to do, no matter if it's not near you, or if you don't feel like going, or if certain things are going on and you committed to this, you're still gonna have to do what was it?
Show the fuck up.
Man, still gonna have to show up. So that is our thank you, sir. That is our podcast topic for today, is showing up. Once you commit to something, if there's an opportunity that you wanted to take advantage of, and you may not feel it like going this morning or whatnot, you still have to show up. So,
and it definitely helps when you get to dress up, because everybody enjoys looking and smelling good.
Right, yeah.
And if you don't, wash your ass.
Right. We're smelling like a good amount of cologne today, and I'm not gonna say what cologne because they're not paying us, but eventually they will. So.
Shout out to a store on South Congress that
Right.
originated in New York and makes their perfumes by hand in-house.
Right.
And I'm also wearing their beard oil.
Yeah.
So, that is...
I kind of do want to say that name, but I'm not.
Starts with Le.
And it ends in Bo. So,
Lebo.
Yeah, Lebo.
That's a good one.
But yeah, so a big thing when you're starting a business, or just you're getting into the work field. I know us coming out of college and whatnot, like, you have to go and appear in certain places in certain formats where, before it may not have been mandatory. So, especially when it comes to trying to get money. If you're trying to get money from somebody, sometimes they don't ask for you to show up. Sometimes it would benefit you. It would behoove you to show up in person. Because if you don't show up personally, and if you don't commit to what you're saying, that gives people, the thought in their mind that you're not somebody that they can depend on. And you always want to be dependable.
Oh, 100%.
You always want to be dependable. That's a big part of retaining clients, to be honest, is being somebody that they can always look to say, hey, look, I know that I need X done, and they're always good at doing that, so I'm going to go to them. They're my go-to guy for this. And a big part of gaining that trust from people is showing up. So,
well, and Austin often talks about your network is your net worth. And a lot of times, and this is it's a concept from the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, which I think you've read.
I've read some of it.
Right. It's a short book, so if you haven't read it, purchase a copy and read it. A lot of the investment banking portfolios and brochures actually come from that book, because the concepts in the book are so well rooted and they're so pragmatic. They make a lot of sense, and they're very good and strong foundations to build upon. But one of the main points of wisdom is ask the people who are successful for their guidance, because it costs you nothing, and most of the time they are more than willing to give you
Very true.
the steps that they took and help you expedite your journey and your process, and it costs you nothing.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of your network is your net worth. We're showing up and we're participating in an event that is well beyond our means, in to say that we don't generally do this, and we're not doing it for pay. We're doing it out of courtesy for a good friend and a good business partner, but also a mentor. And so that's an example of your network is your net worth, but also showing up. A lot of times you have to show up for free, and in simply doing favors for people, you're garnering goodwill. I don't know if you believe in karma, or if you believe in some kind of universal thing, or if you just believe you have some kind of faith in reciprocity. But I believe heavily in reciprocity, and I think that what goes around comes around. What you put out will be received. So if we as humans, forget businessmen, as humans, do good for other people, people will do good in return.
Right.
So it's show up even when you're not paid. Show up even when you don't want to, like Austin says. Show up in ways that you would not have in the past, like Austin says. This isn't something we would do 2-3 years ago, but that doesn't mean that historically if we didn't do it, we're not going to do it, nor can we benefit from it.
Right. And one of the main things, and I don't know how everyone's family structure is set up, but one of the main things that separates a friend from family is that family, more often than not, shows up in your time of need, in your time of distress, right? And most times, you would probably trust telling your family about something because they've been there throughout all of your life experiences. They've been there. They showed up for you in those life experiences. And if you're kind of struggling with that and you haven't realized that yet, take the time to reflect on all the times that even if you may not be on good terms with all your family, that they still might have showed up for you. And as you get older and mature, you realize how important showing up is. So again, one of the main things that separates family from a friend is that family is always there. They always show up. So if you think of business and you think of growing your network and what you're able to provide for people as, okay, they have a family, we have a family. And through this partnership, we can become family with each other. That means that you're going to be that person that they always think of when they need somebody to show up for that particular thing. You're not a friend anymore. You're not somebody on the street that they just say hey to, and they know every now and then or see every now and then. You're family. So they trust you to do these certain things. They trust you to always show up. So that's how you have to think of some of these things when it comes to, just networking and also getting into business with people. Because, even the term, like, you're in bed with someone in business means that you're in business with somebody. Like, it's a very relationship-based, like, familiar, like, way of saying, that you're in business with somebody. It's like it's intimate, it's familial. You have to.
Hold on now. What? Familial and in bed? That's crazy.
I mean, okay.
That's
crazy.
Right.
Okay.
But
That's not what I'm talking about.
I get the point you're making.
Yeah, I get it. But anyway, all I'm saying is it's like, it's a next level of relationship, because when you're family or when you're in bed with someone, relationship wise, you're expected to show up for that person. So, think of these things like it's your family, or you're doing certain things for your family. You have to show up for them. And then more often than not, like Jose said, these things will come back to you. Even if you're not receiving anything from it directly. Like, you may not be receiving, gobs of money for doing this particular thing. You may not be receiving any money for doing this particular thing. But, the kindness of our heart for a person that has helped us before and who said that he would help us and kept true to his word, you have to show up. And then when you do show up, whether they realize it or not, they took account of that in their mind and said, hey, look, I asked them to be here on a random Saturday, after, like months after we originally talked about it, and they still showed up.
Yeah.
So now, when I need something, I know I can count on them. Or now, when somebody around me needs something that they have an expertise in, I can count on them. They're the first person I'm going to go to because they showed up.
Yeah.
So
it's your reputation precedes you, as we talked about, I believe, in the last podcast.
Yeah.
It's you show up with a smile, well dressed, you washed your ass, you have a firm handshake, you're respectful, you're kind, you're courteous, and you're personable and you're personal. Like Austin says, it's good people and good business partners are family because they help you feed your family. And so if I ask you how your day's going, cool. But if I go one step further and ask you about your wife, your kids, your business, or perhaps a vacation, a small thing that most people would overlook, that shows that I'm personal and that I truly care and look after you, which is very important. And that speaks levels because, you know, there's tiers of association, right? There's
1,000%.
stranger, associate, friend, and family.
Acquaintance is in there somewhere. I'd say associate, acquaintance.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Then friend.
And being personal can take you from any level quickly to friend and even family.
Very true.
And that's, again, it's if you want to do it or not, that's up to you. But don't discount the effect that getting close with the right people can have in your life. Because, like Austin says, from the quote, "Show me your 5 friends, and I'll show you your future." It's the same thing. You are the conglomerate of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if those are not good, upstanding individuals or highly successful and honest people, you know, then you'll follow suit into a pit of demise and despair.
He has to take it to that next level of you're gonna shit yourself one of these days because you're fucking up.
Listen, what a lot of people don't understand is that there is no gray area. Either you win or you lose. And now I understand that there's different levels of winning for everybody, and that's true. But what I'm saying is, if either you obtain your ideal or you don't. When I say you win or you lose, that's what I mean. Don't get it twisted. I say, oh, if you don't have $1 million in your bank account by the age of 25, you're a brokey. No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want $1 million in your bank account by a certain date, make it happen. Otherwise, you're failed. Not necessarily are you a failure. I'd love to say that, but you're not.
And one of the ways that you get to those numbers that you want to achieve or whatever that you want to achieve is by showing up. And I can attest, like, there's been plenty of times where I know, Jose may not want to show up, or I may not want to show up, or I got things going on and he has things going on. I had a long day, he had a long day, what have you. But if you're truly committed, you have to do these things. And we were just talking about it earlier. There's going to be a point where you're going to want to quit, where everybody wants to quit.
Yep.
And everybody's like, man, I'm tired of showing up. It hasn't gotten me anywhere. But more often than not, and I've seen multiple things like this, is hilarious. I've seen these things on Instagram where it'll be a picture of somebody who's like, say, trying to drill or knock down a wall to get to the gold or some shit. And then they stop not knowing that the gold was like 2 feet away. They stop because that's where everybody quits. They've been doing it for so long, and that's when they quit. But a potential client that could have taken them from, here to here was right next door, and they quit. So once you get to that point of, hey man, I'm tired of showing up, it's not getting me what I thought it would get me, that's the time where you have to kick it up a notch.
Right.
The time where you go to the gym, you're not able to lift that weight is when most people will quit and say, hey, look, I can't lift that weight. I'm not even going to try it. But what you're supposed to do is you're going to have to keep going and keep trying to lift that weight until eventually your body is going to adapt and say, hey, look, I've built up certain formations and certain shit in your muscles to where I know that you're trying to lift this weight, and we're going to make it happen. You've built up enough connections to where you can do that in your body now. So I'm going to help you lift this weight. And you wouldn't have gotten to that point unless you took the time to keep showing up no matter if you didn't feel like it or not. You know? So this is the time where you have to, no matter how you feel, still show up. Because eventually 90% of those people that were showing up, they're going to quit because they're going to feel that same way that you did. It's that last little 10% that keeps going who see the success. And I can't give you a timetable on how long that's going to take, or for some people it may take months, some people may take years. But you got to keep going, keep showing up. And if you keep showing up, things will look up for you eventually.
I like that. Show up and it'll look up.
Yeah.
I think that's a good analogy about how you need the gym's always a good analogy. And so if you don't go to the gym, go to the fucking gym, bro. Or sis. Just get in the gym, exercise. It doesn't matter what you do. Do something. Get your body moving. You don't want to be a fat ass. So, the Robert Greene touches on that in The Art of War. Actually, no, in all his books, he talks about how there's that desire to give up, or when something, we won't say like the shadow creeps up on you, but something negative happens, or you hit resistance or friction in life. And those are the moments that you need to be the strongest. You actually have to double down. And it's kind of counterintuitive. So, like Austin said, if you can't hit that weight, then you're going to have to adapt in order to hit that weight. And that might mean fixing some component of your training, which could be sleep, diet, rest, stretching, warm up, or just getting on a more structured plan. And so it's almost like the higher you have to go, the more disciplined you have to be. And this is a quote from Ryan Holiday's Discipline is Destiny. If you don't know who Ryan Holiday is, look him up. The man is a G. He's got a bookstore in Bastrop. So if you're local to Austin, Texas, go visit it in Bastrop. It's called The Painted Porch. And it is, discipline does not beget discipline. And that's sort of counterintuitive. You would think, and we talk about this often, you think that as you progress, things get easier. No. As you progress, things get harder. You just get stronger and better and more flexible because you can actually load balance. Now, what that means is the more stress, the more discipline you exert, the higher and further along you'll get. And with that new level, you actually require more discipline.
Right.
And so you're forever becoming more and more disciplined. You're showing up more and more. You're having to buckle down mentally, physically, emotionally, more and more. Everything has to get dialed in slowly, but surely.
It's like, whenever you say, if you're just like a worker bee and you see somebody who's a manager or who's a director or some shit, you think that it doesn't take as much to get that job done because you're not necessarily working on a product, you're managing the shit. But with more responsibility requires more, discipline and structure with how you deal with things because it's more shit that you have to deal with. Like, again, so to take it back to the gym, if you start to bench a certain number, and as you go up, as you increase the weight, you can't slack off on your technique because if you do, you're going to fuck something up in your body. You're going to break something. You're going to tear something. You have to be even more disciplined the higher you go up in weight because there's more at stake, literally. There's more weight on you, on your body that you're trying to lift. So,
and what does Spike say?
You're going to carry that weight. So, if you fuck up, you're going to carry that weight of that fuck up. So in order to minimize the amount of fuck up that you have, or to not have them at all, you have to maintain that level of discipline at all levels, from the start to mid to high. You have to maintain that level of discipline at all times. If you're squatting, you got to make sure that your knees don't buckle, and you have good form. Your back is how it's supposed to be, so you're not hurting your back. You got to maintain that eye level, like he's always trying to tell me to do so when you're squatting too. So it's like, as you go up, if these things are straight, that means you're going to be able to lift that weight better and also more safely for your body. Because if you're undisciplined, you may not see the effects right away, but later on, you'll definitely see the effects, whether that's physically, mentally, or business-wise, and whatever you do, But any last, thoughts on showing up and the importance of it and what you
show up, pick up the phone, be diligent in what you do, and just be humble. That's it. That's really the. And be patient, aggressively patient. And that's what I would say. Austin.
Yeah, I would say one way to make yourself, even if people take advantage of it, which is of course not a good thing for them to do, but if you're that person where people can be like, yeah, if I'm doing this, I know Austin's going to show up, I know Jose's going to show up, I know they're reliable, I know that they can help me out with this, that means you don't know who's going to be that successful around you. You really don't. Like, you could have some thoughts, and you might be right about some of them, but the person that you pass by or say, hey, what's up to in the coffee shop or whatever, could end up being a millionaire tomorrow.
But they could already be one.
Exactly.
You just don't know.
So it depends on how you treat people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to do things to get something out of it, but how you treat people and how you show up for people, or lack thereof, can determine how they're willing to treat or compensate you, right? So if we have a friend who we always showed up for, and that person also has friends, but they never showed up, if he gets rich tomorrow and he knows, hey, I'm trying to do this and I need some reliable, dependable people to help me work on this, he's probably not going to talk or hit up those friends that never showed up for him when he was in a time of need. He's going to hit up those people that were there for him in a time of need. Yeah. And that goes for anything, whether relationship or, friendships, business-wise. People reward those most of the time, unless they're assholes, most of the time, that showed up for them. They remember that, because especially when they're in a fucked up place, it's like, dang, man, I was so fucked up back then, and I just needed some help, and this person helped me get to the point to where I am today, So being that person for everybody in your life is going to take some work. It's not easy. It's exhausting. It is, because you have to show up for yourself, and then you have to show up for other people. It's exhausting. But I promise you, it's going to pay off tenfold in the long run. And people are going to be like, hey, look, this guy is a good guy. And the higher you go up in business and in life, people recommend people that they think are good people to other people. They're not going to recommend the guy that's an asshole or that barely says anything or, doesn't, bring a smile to their face or whatever. They're going to recommend the people that they remember left a lasting impact on them. So you got to be that for people. And showing up is the way to do that. So, and everything in life, make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Make sure that you're doing it with a smile as well, even when you don't feel like it. And show up for people. Show up for yourself too. Because you're not only showing up for the people around you, you're showing up for yourself and yourself in the future. Because if you take this step forward and you show up today, that could benefit your life tomorrow. So that's the last thing I'll say about showing up and how important it is. And on that note, I think we are signing out.
AM Club Podcast. What y'all doing?
What y'all doing, man? Show up.